Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I don't think we have any announcements. We're going to go a little bit out of order. We weren't sure that Dr. Conti was going to be here right on time because he had another meeting, so sorry. Let's start with the conservation hybrid vehicle if we can. So Article 4-12. Eileen?
Sorry, I thought that Dr. Conti was going to be first. Gotcha.
We had said he could be, and then I got nervous about timing, so.
Okay,
Welcome.
thank you. Hi, everybody.
So you want a new car?
Oh, sorry, you want me to speak?
Please,
Yes.
jump right in. I'm pulling up the back up
Okay,
here, but
so
please, please.
we had our subcommittee meeting this morning, and I think I actually was a little bit confusing then, where at the time the budget was, at the time I put in the proposal for the second vehicle, we had a second borrowed one, but it was on its last legs. That met its end in January or February of this year. So that was our borrowed one. We have one existing conservation truck. It's from 2007. It's still running okay, and it's definitely got another probably 1 to 3 years in it. We wanted to add a second vehicle because for large chunks of the year, we have various different people going in and out of our department. We have stream cleaners, and we sometimes have people doing stormwater sampling as well as our standard site visits for wetland permitting and other issues that we have around town. So the proposal would be to buy a second vehicle to supplement the truck that we do have that is definitely on the older side. We were proposing to go with a hybrid, partly because, we're conservation and we like to try and do things that are a little bit more environmentally friendly. We went with a Ford Escape SUV, partly because it's a vehicle that we already have several of in town, and the maintenance staff know how to maintain them, and they're pretty reliable. We're pretty set on using Fords, and we're pretty limited in the number of types of vehicles we can have. So are there any questions you have for me about that?
Subcommittee?
Subcommittee, Paul and I met this morning, and we voted 2-0 in favor.
Do we have questions? John?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hi, Eileen.
Hi.
So, just curious how, I want to get a sense of how much the second vehicle was used when we had it. So, how many days a week or miles a year or some metric of...
Right. I don't really know about miles a year, but it's used, well, in the depths of winter, it's not used daily. From probably March through November, we do use two vehicles. Throughout summer, we definitely need 2, if not 3 vehicles. Then on the shoulder seasons, we do use 2 vehicles, if not daily, then several times per week.
All right, and it's just around town, I assume? Or?
It's primarily around town. Sometimes if we have to go to an event at a town next door, we will take it rather than using mileage on a personal vehicle.
Okay.
It depends on what we're going to.
So, I guess that would be my general question, is that this feels like, something that's not a lot of miles on it, and it seems like reimbursing employees for private vehicle use, kind of a normal thing that, companies do and so on. It seems like it would be appropriate here if it was, heavier use or, heavy duty use where we're going off-road or something.
Well, it is somewhat heavy use. I mean,
in terms of miles, it sounds like it's...
Oh, well, not miles, but I mean, sometimes we're a little bit off-road with it, and we definitely don't want to be taking our personal vehicles like down some of the rutted tracks, 1 or 2 of them that we have.
Okay, well, that's what I'm trying to get a sense of.
So it's not, that's not frequent, but I don't want to break my axle on, in my Mazda.
Right, I guess if it's something that frequently requires two vehicles like that. I'd understand if it's, if we could just, allocate the Ranger for, the off-road use and
Right, that's-
cover it all, then that would be another approach, is why I'm wondering if that's a viable thing to do.
It's not really. Most of the other departments have a town vehicle for site visits and for all of the site work that they do. Why would we be different?
Well, you have a vehicle already. That's why it's really, whether you need a second vehicle for that kind of work is really what I'm getting at.
Well, we definitely need a second, if not a third vehicle in the summer when we've got different sets of people doing different things. Because as I said, we have the stream cleaners for about 3 months of the year, and sometimes we have separate interns who are doing stormwater sampling, and then we have me and Lucy all sort of competing for one vehicle. When we borrowed a second one, it was used frequently.
Okay, thank you.
Roger.
Is it a plug-in hybrid or a regular hybrid?
It's a regular hybrid.
Okay. I think it makes sense to have town vehicles for people doing town business. To me, it sounds like there's enough concurrent work to make it worthwhile.
Also, can I?
It'll last a long time.
Could I add something to that, just about it also kind of depends on what you're doing. Sometimes when we're doing site visits, we're telling people, they're getting in trouble with us. I don't really want to be doing that in my personal vehicle,
Right.
if I can avoid it.
Other questions?
Can I raise something else that, it sort of came up this morning? Is that all right, or do you want to?
No, go ahead.
Well, you had asked whether I had looked at any other options, and I did discover that there is actually a hybrid small truck, which is smaller than a Ranger, that is actually an alternative, which might make, in some ways it makes more sense, because that way we would have actually 2 trucks, because that's the more sort of, we can carry equipment in that, we can carry rakes and hose and bags of trash, no matter who has it. And that would potentially be the same or less than a Ford Escape.
I guess,
Roger.
is that a quad cab? That alternate truck, is it?
I'm sorry, what's a quad cab?
Is it a 4-seater?
Yes, it is.
Okay. They used to make pickup trucks that were 2-seaters. I don't know if they do anymore.
The existing one that we have, the Ranger that we have, is a 2-seater
Okay. But it
with
sounds like you have
little jump
people.
seats.
Right.
Yeah, this is a quad, yes, would be.
So I don't know in terms of the process, whether we can they substitute a vehicle at this point?
And I don't know either.
Thought that what happens is that we allocate the amount of money for the specific use of a vehicle. I don't know if it's tied to the type, though.
Right. I would think the amount is key.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the key part.
People would want to know if we're going to change the concrete details that are proposed.
Right. And I don't know. I don't think I don't remember ever having it change.
So I guess
And
the,
I'm sorry for muddying the waters, I just
Oh, John,
realized
I was
today
going to
when I
say,
looked
John
it
may
up.
come running over, but you're already here, sorry.
Just waiting for that.
I think what you were asking was if the warrant article is for a specific vehicle, can you change it? I would say, well, when I was town accountant, I would say, no, you can't. You have to stay within the 4 corners of the article. And in this case, it does say, I think it says SUV or hybrid or,
It specifically
warrant.
says, oh, sorry, in the warrant, right.
so we would have to stay within the warrant if it's specific enough. If it just said vehicle, conservation vehicle, that would be okay. But if it says
I'm looking for
4-12,
the,
last page, page it was just on. Vehicle replacement hybrid, so if we were buying a hybrid truck, that's still within the 4 corners.
oh, that's what I was suggesting, the Maverick is a hybrid.
Yeah, the backup material is specific, but the title is generic. A warrant article is specific.
Paul?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, John, if a motion were made on town floor meeting to change it, that would be acceptable?
Yeah, I'm not even sure it would be needed, but we can check for sure. And I don't think we mentioned it, that the funding source for this is not free cash, it's wetlands, receipts reserved.
Right, so that,
I was about to mention that, thanks.
Sorry, still you think.
No, that's fine.
okay,
well,
go ahead.
so from my perspective, I would say it's like, I would go ahead with the alternative vehicle, confirm that that's the one you want, come prepared with the documentation. You should check with the lawyers or anybody else has to make sure we're not screwing up the process.
Yeah, the one thing about it is availability too. You know, the SUV might be readily available.
Right.
And the truck may not.
I did check with the fleet manager, so he's okay with the idea of the substitution, but we haven't checked yet, can I get one next year?
So I think from our sorry.
No, I mean, complete your thought, please.
I was just going to say, I think I'm okay with the switch, as long as we're sort of forthright about it.
And my question is whether you're making a switch because this is a vehicle that's preferable for your purpose, or because you're trying to conform to feedback? Because I'd want you to do what you think is best for the
Right.
department.
Yes.
I was just looking at other options because it had been pointed out to me, had I really looked at other options? And I hadn't looked at them very carefully, but when I did, I thought that is actually a really great option because it gives me the hybrid that I want. It gives me a truck with a flatbed, which is kind of ideal, just, it gives us more flexibility. So I would be fine with either one, but if I can get the truck within the same financial parameters,
Yeah.
then I guess I would, all things being equal,
Right, but
including
what I would say
availability.
is take your time to decide. That's really what the department
You
is.
have until the 12th.
Not too much time.
You have until midnight.
14th, 12th would be ambitious. That would mean we
Right.
got all the way through, halfway through our
Yeah.
war.
That's true.
Yeah,
Okay,
wishful thinking.
at least, anyway.
So, anybody, Dave?
Just one, the estimate was from October of last year, didn't include sales tax. You're at 38.5 for that estimate.
Right.
You're asking for 42. Even if you add sales tax to it, you're gonna be, well,
We don't pay sales tax.
Yeah,
we don't pay.
No.
no, we're a state entity.
I think it was bumped up a little bit to account for the fact that it would be a 26 vehicle, and I'm not certain about the paint.
Yeah, it's still got to be lettered and everything, so.
It'll be somewhere around there.
There's 3,500.
Chris?
modeling.
How many employees may need to use these vehicles?
2 full-time, and then
We don't like to.
Then we have usually 3 or 4 seasonal who would be using it as one team usually, and then potentially another 1 to 2 seasonal, or like half-year people.
And one of the problems with departments borrowing cars from each other is they all need them at the same time. The time when they need them the most is when they have the bodies in the summer, and that's when they all need them, so.
Sure.
There aren't vehicles to borrow, you know.
What do we do with it in the winter if it's not being used?
Well, it is used in the winter, it's just, I'm just saying it's not used as frequently, because we do fewer, one of the things that we do all the time, like every week, is inspections on ongoing construction sites, and that is work that just happens a little bit less in winter. With external work happens a little bit less in winter, but we still do site visits and visits because somebody asked us to look at something to do with trees. It's just a little bit less frequent. So it is
It
used.
just wasn't sitting here.
And it'll extend the life of the pickup or the little truck that's running towards the end. Right, there's other vehicle.
Right?
Or serve as a backup when it does.
Thank you.
But we don't
Right.
have any inside space for
Right.
anything other than the DPW vehicles.
DPW, rec maintenance, right. Right.
Well, all the engineering, DPW engineering vehicles are outside during winter, and the building department, and all the town admin vehicles.
Yeah.
Yeah,
other than-
everybody else.
Yeah,
Right.
other than DPW.
That's true.
Okay. So any other questions, any other comments? I think 3 different people reached out to me, which is unusual. One was just concerned because the one vehicle only has 40,000 miles on it, but you've made the case for more than one. I certainly had 2 people worried about the hybrid. One about the increased cost in a hybrid versus a conventional, and the other, what do we have for maintenance? Can our town mechanics service them, work on them? Are they comfortable with them, or is that something that because they're hybrid and
Can I answer that?
Please.
We do have some hybrid Ford Escapes. That's part of why I initially was going with that. And the fleet, Mike was happy to add that to the roster.
Okay.
They know how to deal with hybrid vehicles. Initially, I was going crazy and I was looking at electric, but that was not really feasible because they don't have anybody who's certified for that, and we'd have to add in outside maintenance and reduce the lifespan of the vehicle. So hybrid was a good option.
Okay. All right.
Move to approve?
Second.
So we have a motion to approve, is it, I'm going to find it, $42,000 from the Wetlands Receipt Reserve account? Is that the proper account? Do we have a second?
Second.
And we have no one online.
Hands. We can do hands.
Hands, so all those in
Easy.
favor? Opposed? Abstain? Chair votes aye. That should make it 13-0-0. Thank you.
Good, thank you.
Let's go to, let's do fire. They have 3, and then we'll go to the bathroom. So, Chief. Is there a message there? Yeah, exactly. And then after that, we'll talk about the middle school facilities.
Yeah.
That was good. Hi, Chief.
Hello.
So we'll start with 4-3, the command car.
Okay. So we're requesting to replace one of the command cars. We have a fleet of about 7, 8 vehicles that we want to rotate through and get one pretty much every year. This vehicle is a 2015. It's approaching 100,000 miles. It's, just like other vehicles in the past. Parts are wearing out, rusting. It's a frontline piece, emergency vehicle, not day-to-day, but it is an emergency response vehicle. The alternatives would be to replace some of the parts, but it would be, my opinion, throwing good money after bad, because we would repair that and then something else would go. So if approved, there would be availability immediately if they still have the vehicle on the lot. So that is our request for a command car.
Okay. Subcommittee?
Chris and I went down and looked at the car, the current command car to be replaced, and kind of saw the condition of it, and given the number of miles on it, and as the chief said, you're going to start to have to pay for repairs on a car like that. So we agreed that it was necessary, and voted 2-0 in favor.
Questions?
Just a real
Roger?
simple one. What's the total? Because the thing that I'm looking at says 75,000, but I thought the top line said 90,000, so.
It says 91,000 is the,
So
The other stuff.
So there's another,
there was,
there's more to the backup I hope that you have. It's the lights.
The light.
Emergency lights that get installed, that's 12,767. And we've left room for an increase in price. This quote was from November. We know that the lighting will go up. We're hopeful that the vehicle cost will remain the same. And in fact, that 75 is for a 2026, but we're hoping to get a 2025 that's on the lot. for the 69,000 as opposed to the 75. So if approved and they still have it on the lot, they have said that they will hold it for us. But again, they're out to make money and
Okay.
Other questions?
How does this work? You're going to Long Island to go get your lights, and you're buying from Liberty Chevrolet.
well, we're not going to Long Island. It's Island Tech Services. They are, there's a local outfit that does it. So they will buy the vehicle and then we'll have to,
Okay, so they're just hardware company, and then they have.
yeah,
stuff to do.
they put in the emergency lighting.
Okay. I happen to know exactly where they're located.
Oh, okay,
I grew up near there.
okay.
Anybody else? Any other questions? So last night, we had a town meeting information session, and one of the town meeting members was asking specifically about the upcharge, the comfort package with the Bose 10-speaker surround sound and the heated seats and power folding mirrors and bucket seats and whatever. So he was just concerned that we were spending another $2,200 for luxury things for a work vehicle. Is that just how they're spec'd out? What's the?
That is the vehicle that they have on the lot that is in the color that we wanted, red. We could go with a black one that doesn't have that. Like I said, back in November is when we started this process. I don't know for sure what they have on the lot. We will get a vehicle that's as cheap as possible. We have the two different quotes. If we go with the 2026, we'll have to order it. They've said it's going to be a 10% increase. Obviously, we don't know that for sure. The vehicles that they have on the lot, we know for sure. So if they have a vehicle or can obtain a vehicle that doesn't have a comfort package, then so be it. We just want a vehicle that's gonna
Sure.
get to and from.
Yeah, I assume people would be more comfortable if it's cheaper to order one and wait a little while and you get a 2026, that'd be great. If it's cheaper to buy this one off the lot than ordering a new one, which it likely is, then, but I would expect that question on whatever night we get to this. Chris?
The only thing that I haven't been able to decipher, and I'm hoping it's in here somewhere, is that we're gonna have protection on the floor mats, but I can't see that anywhere here on the quote.
I'm sorry.
Like floor mats, so ways to preserve the vehicle so that we don't start damaging.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I didn't see that in anywhere,
Like a WeatherTech?
yeah, like
type-
whether,
type thing?
things that
Okay.
are gonna preserve it. I mean, getting 100,000 miles under the vehicles over, 10 years is pretty good for what we do with this, but just making sure that we're, if we're gonna spend this money, making sure we have that type of amenity that will preserve it longer.
Okay.
Any other questions? We have a motion.
Move to approve.
Second?
So we have a motion to approve $91,000 from free cash for the command car 4-3. All those in favor? Opposed? Chair votes aye. All right. So we can move on to the ambulance or the transfer, whichever one you want to do first. Let's do 14, the ambulance. Is that all right?
Okay. So this is to replace an ambulance, similar to the command vehicle. It's going to replace a vehicle and retire one of them. It also is going to catch us up in purchasing some ambulance equipment that a few years ago, we did not keep up with purchasing. So this is to purchase an ambulance, 2 stretchers, and 2 stair chairs, a chest compression device, and 3 automatic external defibrillators. And typically, or I would think from this point on, we would want to replace all of those, 1 stretcher, 1 stair chair, 1 chest compression device, 1 AED, with the purchase of a new ambulance. This is an estimated cost of $615,000, useful life 7 to 9 years. Our medical calls continue to increase. In the past, we did not even have a backup ambulance, so currently our mechanic, who's doing great work, he's been cycling through preventative maintenance, but also hitting, if ambulance 1, which is the front line, and ambulance 2, which is the second ambulance, go down, we now have an ambulance 3. But they're getting old, they're getting used quite a bit, and it takes 2 to 3 years to get them to come in. So we have one that's coming in this year, so we're hoping that A1 can be replaced and pushed back to A2. And then in 3 years, when this one comes in, the same thing can happen.
Can I just add about the funding source? This is from the ambulance receipts reserved account. Everybody here is familiar with that, but for the thousands watching at home, that is where we segregate the dollars that when the town went to provide ambulance ALS service through our own staff rather than through a third party, there was additional revenues that were going to be set aside in a receipts reserved account and then used to help offset the costs of providing those services. So there's 2 articles that we're going to be doing this at this town meeting, but for this one, these costs are specific to providing ambulance service and appropriate for us to come and appropriate the money from the receipts reserved account.
Okay. Subcommittee?
Yep, so Chris and I also went down, looked at the ambulances there, and talked to the chief and the assistant chief, and part of that discussion, we talked about just the revenues to the town that the ALS service is bringing in are pretty significant. So this is kind of, working out, I'd say, from the town's perspective, just bringing that in and then turning around and spending it on ambulances and other equipment to support that. So I think it seems to be working. Subcommittee voted 2-0.
Any questions, comments? Frank?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one, it says it's a 3-year delivery?
Yes.
Okay.
Our apparatus, ambulances, and fire engines
All
are,
right, so, and what model year would you get when you get it?
whatever the year it's delivered.
The year it's
So
delivered?
we, a couple of years ago, a few years ago, got an approval for an ambulance. It is going to be delivered this year. It will be this model here.
Oh, interesting, wow. And when all is said and done with this, and you do all the rotations, don't we end up with actually one additional vehicle? I'm not questioning the use of them.
Yeah.
We end up with an additional vehicle. Where's the space gonna be for the additional ambulance?
We currently have an additional vehicle. We currently have 3 ambulances.
But you'll end up with 4, right?
No, we're trading
Oh,
in,
you're actually disposing of
Yeah.
them? Okay,
yeah.
I misread that. Okay, thank you. 3 years. I'm in my own business.
Fire truck's 5, I think. So. Chris?
What's the ambulance reserve fund currently at?
Balance?
Yeah.
So these 2 articles are going to be about $1 million, and we'll likely have 1.8, 1.9 million after these articles come out this year. the balance is higher than we originally projected, but ambulance, when we first started doing this, we were talking about every 6 years. Now, with the amount of service we're providing, it's going to be less than that. And they used to cost $450,000, and now they cost $650,000. So we'll probably next year be asking for a little bit more to offset the operating budget and put out the projection for what the next couple ambulance purchases look like.
Rick?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If it's a 3-year delivery, what's the payment schedule for that? Is it paid up front?
No, deposit in milestone deposits.
Milestone-based.
John?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, in the backup, you mentioned that there's about 3,900 ambulance runs. What fraction of those are ALS runs, would you say?
Right now, it runs about 50%.
Okay, so
Yeah.
pretty high.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And that's 50% of that, what is that, 1,800, 1,900 runs that we would have to call somebody else to do
Right.
before. Now they're
Yeah,
They're
that's a
there.
lot.
Anybody else? Motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
So a motion for the purchase of an ambulance from the Ambulance Receipt Reserve Fund for $615,000. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Chair votes aye. 13-0-0. Now, the transfer?
So it has become annual. This is probably the 4th time we've done this. This is those same dollars that we're segregating from the ambulance receipts, we're using to offset the operating budget. So the fire department budget that you've already approved has this money netted out of it already. So there was $360,000 deducted from that because it's going to come from the ambulance receipts reserved. That's what I had just mentioned, that we expect next year that number's probably going to be a little bit higher. That number was set a few years back. There's been cost increase for personnel and everything since then. So we'll probably set a new limit for that next year. But for this year, we're going to stick with the same amount.
Subcommittee? Do we have a?
Yeah, we didn't really discuss this with the chief.
Okay. All right. Frank?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the $360,000 that you'll take out of the receipts reserve, dropping that down to something or whatever, what part of the budget does it go into?
So when you approved the fire department's budget, it had all the costs listed out. It was in personnel.
Yeah.
And then it just had a minus $300,000.
That's already on the operating?
It's already included in the operating budget.
Went to overtime,
Yeah, 300 goes to overtime and some amount goes to expenses.
Okay. So, and you don't want to take any more out because you think you're going to need it going forward for more expensive?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what we programmed in for. This is, I think, year 4 or 5, and that's what we had programmed in. So I think we'll be asking for more in future years.
Okay, it's good to know that though, because all these different little chunks of money that we can apply to the operating budget help out here and there. So-
Yeah,
John?
Yeah, I was having the same thought. We've actually been sort of overloading this account in some sense, and as paying for the full ambulance, whereas, conceptually, the idea of the receipts reserve fund is we'd used to pay for the incremental costs for ALS against the incremental revenues. So to be more fair, so to speak, or accurate, it would make sense to make sure it's covering the full ALS incremental expenses in the operating budget, apply what we reasonably can to the ambulance, and then hopefully, that sort of represents the incremental cost of an ALS ambulance versus a BLS one, which we would have normally paid for out of a warrant article in whole.
And it may not get there, but we could get closer.
Yeah, I mean, I could imagine that, a BLS ambulance is, probably only $100K cheaper or something, so, it would be pretty fair to have that mostly be a regular warrant article.
I don't think we would be buying a ALS or BLS ambulance. It's just an ambulance, it's just the equipment that.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
If we were not in the ALS business, the cost of the ambulance would
Okay.
be close, but not quite as much as, what we're seeing here anyway.
Questions, comments? Anybody else?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Motion to approve a transfer from the ambulance reserve, receipts reserve for a FY26 budget offset for the amount of $360,000. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Chair votes yes. 13-0-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. It's time to talk bathrooms. Article 27, we postponed it last week to come back and have a little more discussion.
Mr. Chair, hopefully we can move through this quickly. I know you have a full agenda. Appreciate your having us back. We had exchanged an email with some possibilities, some ideas, and obviously these ideas would require school committee approval. We have a meeting scheduled with the school committee prior to town meeting on Monday and also on Tuesday. I don't believe we would get to this article until after Tuesday anyway, so I think it's 2 opportunities to have the conversation with the committee. We also, prior to this meeting, had a meeting with the Marshall Simonds field group that is working on that, and we still are working with conservation to get the actual design approved. There's some newly established wetlands that we're working through with conservation. My point being is we don't have a firm design yet or approval from conservation on the field study. So I do believe, given that we don't have a firm design on that, that it makes sense for us to recommend to the school committee to postpone the warrant. I think the 2 options we had discussed was either to eliminate the warrant completely, pull the warrant, or ask for a reduction for some design costs. I think the design cost would be the more beneficial option, because we're also in the process of finalizing the field design as well, and if we could look at bathrooms as a part of it and then come back when we sort of have the field approval by conservation and an approved project, I think would give us a better opportunity to come to this body, town meeting, capital, with an established placement, an established design, and an established size. And so I think it would just change the conversation a little bit. I know changing a warrant might be more technical than just eliminating the warrant. Mr. Riggs, you proposed some language that I think, again, is fine with me. The estimate that we have for the design process is roughly around $45,000. That's with some contingency I kind of just added in. So right within the ballpark, we had discussed around $50,000. So again, I can't make that decision tonight. That's not my decision to make, but I'm comfortable taking the 0-4-1 vote from capital budget, the hesitancy of this board back to the school committee on Monday prior to town meeting, and making a recommendation that we adjust the warrant as it currently exists, and then certainly knowing that we're going to come back to the town meeting process when we have more information. We do believe there's a need and a community desire for a bathroom facility at the middle school field complex.
Okay. I think it would be cleaner if the school committee would withdraw it and come back in September and ask for money for design, and I'm not sure it would set things back significantly for the actual when we would have a bathroom if it gets approved. But I think the other option that we had was to amend this article. It would have to be for borrowing $50,000. There was some concern that the wording of it might be a challenge because the borrowing money for this kind of design project was a little concerning. It probably would be that we have to come back in September and then do a warrant requesting that we pay for it from free cash and not to prevent borrowing, which we've certainly done before. So, you know, I think we're at that point, but we don't really know whether you're going to withdraw, whether they're willing to withdraw until you have a meeting, which I understand.
Right, and so again, I don't want to overextend myself, but I have no problem presenting that option as well to the school committee, so I think I would plan to present all three options as were presented, and let the school committee make the decision, but I'm really going to encourage, again, we have two opportunities, not having the warrant presented at town meeting as currently written. So again, I think I'm getting a clear signal from obviously this committee and capital budget. And if I had a firm design on the middle school field project and I had a better idea of what that could look like and I could share that with you all, I would be more comfortable potentially moving forward. But so again, do we need a vote for that, or do I just need to make the case to the school committee?
Roger.
I think probably would. So I don't think we could vote on anything tonight. If when the school committee makes a choice, if there's something we need to vote on, we'll have to schedule a meeting, potentially anticipatorily schedule a meeting for Wednesday to make, if we want to follow through with it. But, or we take it to town meeting without a Ways and Means vote.
Well, I think we have another option. We could vote on it as it stands, and I can imagine what the outcome of that would be, or we could amend it and vote on it, and then they can, you know, that pushes forward what we're not really loving, but it's better than, you know, so, yeah.
I guess I would hesitate to speculate on what the amendment should look like until after the school committee makes their choice.
Frank?
Yeah, I don't know what we could amend it to other than a small amount for a design study. But are you saying that if we did that, which is possible, we can't make it from free cash?
We can't change it to free cash because
Sure about that.
it's printed in the warrant as borrowing.
But an amendment can't change that
No.
mechanism? Well, okay.
Seems arbitrary.
What's that?
It does seem arbitrary that you can't change.
Yeah, it sort of does. John's gone.
No, he's here. He's in the back.
Oh, yeah, so we can't do this. That's good.
Which is why we normally print them with all three.
Yeah.
And then we have to
Yeah.
make a motion on every single
Yeah,
one.
this feels like a sandbox with no door. Okay, so my.
Sandboxes don't have doors.
Yeah. My position would be, if the school committee, all right, one other question, the timing.
Yes.
So if we move this to September, if we postpone, you would
Withdraw, okay.
Right, so we could vote it tonight, we could defeat it, you could withdraw it. The defeat means nothing because the motion's withdrawn, it's gone, okay, just poof. And then you would come back theoretically in September for something, probably design money,
Probably, yes.
right? Does that timing work out with the construction of the field? Will you just start the design of the bathrooms in September? Because then you still.
Bob's going to be better at that to me, but
You still gotta come back for funding for the
right, but
bathrooms.
the field design, the phase one design isn't approved yet.
Well,
And
I
so,
know.
but you're talking about the track and the field possibly being approved by town meeting. Would September design,
It would be a scheduling conflict, but we would obviously have to make it work. I mean, ideally, if we had the backfield under construction in a month or two, and then next year we were to pursue the front field in the bathrooms, I think we could time it. I think the unknown of the backfield gives me a little bit of angst, so I think delaying it puts a little bit of, takes a little pressure off and allows the timing to actually coincide. So I think it gives us a little bit of freedom.
Okay. All right, so my view would be, we should assume they're gonna withdraw it. Regardless, we would defeat this. It goes up in smoke one way or the other, probably. And you come back in September, and we reconsider whatever you ask for, probably just straight design money at that point. right?
John,
No?
did you have? Oh,
Again,
No, that would seem to make
could
sense to
make
me.
sense.
Like Bob and I are trying not to act like elected officials. So again, I think we will certainly make a recommendation to the school committee and say that the typical, I think if we had brought a sound project, I think what I got from the majority of you is no one is questioning the need for bathrooms, and I appreciate that. But the timing and having a better idea of design with everything else that's going on in that part of the school property, I think it makes sense. I think Bob said it would be a relief to have a little bit of time till we have all of the other designs done. I think that's a case that we can present to the school committee. But I don't want to get ahead of the school committee in terms of that. So we're very comfortable presenting the postponement until September case. I just can't say that that is how the elected officials are going to move forward.
So to finish my thought out, so September you get design money, your next bite at the apple is gonna be January, I guess, for free cash to fund them, be the soonest,
Okay?
Right.
right?
yeah, or May,
It's
We could do
atypical
that.
for January, but
or May. I don't think it puts them that far.
With the estimate being roughly under $50,000 from the other design fees that we're paying for larger projects, I don't believe this is that complex a design. Again, not my field, but I'm assuming they can move pretty.
I'm worried about the money to build the whole
No,
thing.
100%, but I guess what I'm saying is if it's September or January, I believe that work can take place relatively quickly. Again, it's not my field, but I'm assuming it would be a lot more if it were to have a longer lead time. That's kind of my saying, so.
I have a question.
Yeah, so thank you. I completely agree. It seems like a good path. Rather than try and come up with hypotheticals, we should just vote on the current article. And if something else comes out of school committee that we need to vote on, you might want to just preemptively post a meeting for Wednesday before town meeting, so we can vote on that, and make a recommendation on that.
So in September, when they're going for the money for the design, where does the funding come from? Because we don't have free cash at that point?
Well, we would have free cash.
not in September.
Not in September.
No, wait, we don't need to take it out of a new certification. Can't we use?
No, it all goes, no.
No, that's a problem.
Certified usually November, so.
Yeah, so that's why I'm asking.
$1 million carried.
It becomes uncertified.
Yeah.
All right, so I think we should have John, say what you just said again, John, for the.
I said if we know that we're going to need free cash in September for a specific article, we can readjust our schedule to try to get it certified prior to September. I mean, it's just, we have fallen in because we traditionally didn't do free cash articles in September, that we haven't rushed DOR to approve ours because
Right. Okay.
everybody with a fall town meeting needs their free cash certified before it, because we have January.
Okay, so I think that's a likely outcome because we sure as hell don't want to borrow it. And we don't want to raise and appropriate it, so what the heck else are you gonna do? You could do a certified transfer. Those are the two choices if this comes up,
Unless,
unless what?
other than the Ways and Means.
Reserve trust.
Yeah, that was the reserve fund transfer.
Okay, yeah,
That's the other place.
I mean, you could do RFT and then.
Replenish it.
Replenish.
Okay, all right. I think we can make it work. You decide what you want to do. We'll just take the article as it sits.
The committee will decide what they want to do.
Yes.
yes.
I'm assuming you will influence the committee somewhat.
It's almost like they're watching you.
I saw some hands, but I don't.
Chairman, I have a question.
Oh. Chris,
It's like,
So just kind of recapping where we were last meeting, I think some of our frustration came out, and it didn't necessarily need to be at schools, but at the entire planning process. And when these types of projects are coming up, making sure that they're associated within our long-term planning, that they seem like they have a thought process, a procedure, because what I started to think about is, well, $1.5 million, what field could have been done over the bathrooms, and why this priority over that a priority? And I think the other thing we talked about, and I'll mention it because Rec's in the room, because wanting to make sure that our committees are better collaborating, and that we're doing some of these projects either together or in tandem or part of the plans and the reports that we have all done. And so I think that also was unfortunately last time came out at schools, but it wasn't necessarily because of schools. And again, a bathroom plan that we all need, but really trying to look at our future and knowing things are gonna get tougher and tougher, and making sure that we're really using this money in these plannings to make sure things are very well thought out. And unfortunately, with schools using this lesson, hopefully, across the board with the boards and committees as they come forward, to be able to say of why this, why now, and making sure that we're really justifying.
So do you want a motion?
Yeah, well, let's add a little more. We're-
As well? Thank you. So you said what, the first thing I came prepared to say. Chris said the other thing. I'll just add a couple of details in support. I'm a little concerned about the language now calling the resurfacing phase 2 of a larger project. I think that it's important for everyone to recognize, town meeting and all of us, I think we all do, that the field resurfacing is phase N of a process that was started when we built Brush Field. It's just part of the maintenance that we can expect and should plan for, and that should be part of the plan for any of these larger projects, this long-term maintenance. And so I think that the field house is kind of phase 2 of a project that we didn't see fully scoped last year. And so that's kind of symptomatic of this systemic problem of, not making a decision on what our goals are there. And so one thing that made me a little hesitant to fund the study right now, in a hurried fashion, is that I'm not so interested in architecting the potty palace that we, saw an example of in the backup. I think that what we need to do is to think carefully about how that backfield and brush field are going to be used, anticipate what more utilization we're going to see, what events we might host, what attendance we can expect, and then decide what our needs are and how we can best satisfy it. We heard 3 different things, only one of which was in the backup, that this field house could be used for. And the first is bathrooms, which are needed. We just need to decide what attendance is going to be and what steady state and peak capacity we need. The second is storage. There are 4 ugly containers in the parking lot. We should study what those needs are and see if we can satisfy those. And the third is concessions, which is my favorite one, because I can just imagine the sweet smell of hot dogs and revenues, right? Because that might be a source of revenues when we host events. So I just want to make sure when we do that planning process, we are thinking broadly about what our needs actually are and how best to satisfy them. That's my piece. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think we talked the last time about some potential options, and should you, come forward in the fall with a request to authorize money to do a study on this. You had mentioned, for instance, the locker rooms at Marshall Simonds as being a spot that's currently, it's not used as a locker room anymore, but it could be used as something else to kind of support the fields. So I'm assuming that that would be part of whatever, options you consider.
Yeah, they would look at that. Right, the price tag on that might be higher too, so we'll look at some different options.
Okay. I guess the other thing is the kind of the maintenance of the facilities and how that's all going to work. You'll have to think that through also.
We will.
Right, I just wanted, that was kind of headed that way, not just maintenance, just the regular upkeep, because I've personally used a porta potty at Woburn and one other that have nice bathrooms, but we were there for a Pop Warner thing or a flag football thing, and the bathrooms are locked because it wasn't a school function, because they're not going to pay for a custodian for 4 or 8 hours to come. And so oftentimes you do see these nice bathroom facilities, and right outside the nice door is a porta potty for community events. And it's fair. It's not fair to expect the schools to pay for a custodian 7 days a week. But at the same time, it's not a community bathroom if it's never open. So we have to figure that out with whoever else, REC and whoever else, is responsible for bathrooms for community events. Anything else? Yes.
We need a holistic plan, covers all aspects. I'm not going to repeat what everybody else said, but just one piece is not enough.
I've heard that.
All right. So do we have a motion?
Frank?
I make a motion to approve Article 27 for 1650 from borrowing.
Second?
All right. All those in favor? All those opposed? Abstain? Chair opposed? So that would be 0-13-0. All right. Thank you. Thanks for coming back.
No, thanks for having us and for your guidance. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Now, what do we, let's move into, do we have rec in? Who's here, rec? So let's move to rec. 413. Brendan, come on down. Hello.
Hello.
Welcome.
Good evening.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
So you want to start with 413 and, right, more athletic field discussion.
Can you tell me what fourth?
Oh, I'm sorry, that's the
There it is.
athletic
Yep.
field improvement program, I'm sorry.
Okay.
200,000.
Yep. Thank you. This is a article that was presented last year at town meeting to help us work on some of the athletic facilities and covers things like field improvements, fencing, worn out and damaged fencing, backstops, irrigation, players' benches, and improve the accessibility of the sites, and all in an effort to improve the playability and access to all of the sites. To date, some of the projects that we have expended the funds on include new backstop and player benches and fences in front of the player benches at Center School, new backstop at Rotary Field. We had a large tree kind of hanging over the field that we removed as well, and other brush at Marvin and Rotary. And then at Brushfield, we repaired netting system behind the end zone. We had an irrigation assessment that was just completed, which will give us a capital plan going forward for our irrigation systems. And hopefully, if approved again this year, some of those items will be able to start to tick off as well. And then projects that we haven't completed that we plan to, rebuilding the Center School softball infield, so we were able to get some of the exterior stuff done, rebuilding the infield, as well as renovating the infield at Rahanis Park for the softball field, and then future projects, replacing netting at Marvin Field, doing dugout covers, roofs at Simonds Park on the baseball fields and softball fields there as well, because they sit out in the sun. And then replacing the outfield fence at Rotary Field. So those are some projects coming up in the future.
Questions? Oh, subcommittee?
Subcommittee voted
I'm
2-0
sorry.
in favor.
2-0 in favor. Now, questions. Anybody want to question the subcommittee? No? Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion for athletic field improvement program for $200,000 from free cash. All in favor? Opposed? Abstain? Chair votes yes. 13-0-0. So let's go to 4-14, fencing, walkway, and tree replacement program.
Yes, thank you. This would be for the replacement renovations of fences, walkways, and trees within our parks, playgrounds, school and municipal properties. Through the completion of our outdoor facility master plan, along with requests that we received from the school department, from residents, we have identified a number of fences, walkways, and trees that are in need of repair, renovation, or replacement, or removal within those previously named areas, playgrounds, schools, parks, town properties. And this is a similar article to the athletic field improvement. It's just there are a number of these that come up throughout the year that we just don't have in our operating budget to handle. So this would be an identical article in similarity to the athletic field. We have walkways at Wildwood from Liberty Ave that come into the park that half of it is paved, the rest is worn away over the years. It's uneven. We would look at replacing a walkway like that, something at Regan Park coming in from Wing Terrace. TRW, a new walkway from the parking lot to the field area. Wildmere Playground, an accessible walkway to the playground. We just are almost done with the playground there. But changing grades and things like that to make the best use of the land, we now have a walkway that won't actually meet up to the new playground and be accessible. And then fencing at Wildmere Park, perimeter fencing that's failing, trees have fallen on it, we've repaired, more trees fall back on it from around the property line. Pathwoods Tot Lot, the perimeter fence there is rusted and probably a good 40 years old, 30 years old, and starting to fail in spots. And then TRW perimeter fencing at Francis Wyman as well. And then we have tree work that takes place on town properties. School department has some trees. An example, the little island that sits out in the front of Francis Wyman that's kind of raised when you drive in, we had a tree rot, basically blow off its base and then land into another one. So they were too large for our staff to handle, so we had to call in a tree company, and they have to come in like right away because it's leaning over the road and kids coming and going. They got out there to look at it in that afternoon, and we're back first thing the next morning to remove it. So those type of issues that come up, and if anyone's had tree work done at their house, they know it's not cheap.
Subcommittee?
Subcommittee voted 2-0. If I can add a couple of comments. While we've been reviewing other budgets, it turns out there's a warrant article from the schools for a chunk of money to also to work on trees, and the DPW has a big chunk of work on trees. Mostly with the other two with the rationale of having to pay outside contractors to do the work. And I assume part of this money is also to pay outside contractors to do things that you can't do yourself?
Yes, that's what, so we would still handle trees of caliber size that we could handle with our equipment. Anything larger than that would have to go out.
All right. I think our John and my comment was that we need to maybe do a little more coordination. I think, I want to say John Sanchez, but that's wrong. The tree warden, there is a tree warden role in town, and I don't know whether exactly how that's staffed or legislated. But for next year's budget, we should probably do a little better coordination in terms of whether the 3 pots of money is the right amount of money or the right places to cover the tree needs. I don't know that it needs to be consolidated, but there definitely needs to make sure we're not spending, or not, that we're not, I don't want to say we're not spending too much money, because it sounds like it's really need-driven, as opposed to, oh, I want a bush shaped like a dinosaur, but anyway, thanks.
Comments?
Just to add to that, thank you. The good news is that, we talked to Brian White, DPW, quite a bit about this too, and many other towns actually have tree departments which are paying vastly more money for personnel and so forth than we are, even with all three of these put together. So while it may seem a little ad hoc, it's at least inexpensive compared to what many other towns are paying, so that part's great.
Mike?
When you contract out for outside tree services, how do you decide who to go through?
We have one that we've worked with on other projects, and I usually give them first shot. And then if they're not available to do it, I will go down a list and look for someone else.
I had some trees trimmed in my yard, and I had, time to look at a couple different places, but it was, kind of having that competition, I felt like the price came down, so something to keep in mind if you have time to
Okay.
get a couple of prices.
Yeah, usually they're emergency situations. If we're planning it out, yes, we could definitely do that.
Anybody else? Oh, Chris?
So I've obviously done a lot of thought on this in general because we do have the three different departments, but one of the things that made me think recently was what happened in Winchester. They had a huge, either microburst or something go down, and they had a huge number of trees that went down that required immediate work. And it just keeps me thinking between schools, rec, DPW, obviously it was on a number of different properties. How is that handled? I understand there's communication between rec and schools, we've adjusted that, but with DPW, and how do they play into all of this?
So we will maintain trees, take care of damaged trees that have come down on town property, parks, and schools. DPW, I believe, would be roadside trees. And I believe the tree warden is in the DPW, is
Yep.
maybe under the director of DPW.
I think it's Brian, but
Yeah, I think so.
but their domain is roads, streets.
Anybody else? Motion?
Move to approve?
So we have a motion for 4-14 fencing, walkway, and tree replacement program, $50,000 from free cash. All those in favor? Opposed, abstained, chair votes yes, 13-0-0. The basketball court, 4-15, Rohannes basketball court renovation.
Yes, thank you. This was for $115,000. I think at one point there was a mistake that it said $150,000, but it is $115,000. It's to renovate the basketball court, including new grinding out, removing the surface, putting in a new regrading, putting in a new surface, basketball supports, which includes the backboards and rims, fencing, the painting of the court surface, and obviously the paving. This has been on our 10-year capital plan for a number of years. Basketball court surface is cracking. The fencing is beginning to fail. We've had trees come down through the woods onto that fencing as well and tried to do our best to fix it, looking at a longer-term renovation of the facility. The quote that you see in there for paving was given in December for $68,000. That's for the removal and the regrading and paving and painting. We have an estimate in there for $14,550 for two complete systems, basketball backboard systems, the same ones as Simonds Park that we just put in there. What's not, the backup does not include $7,500 for fencing and another $10,000 to install the backboards as part of the project. So total, we're at $103,000, I believe $102,000, and we're asking for $115 because we don't know when we go out to bid what prices we'll get when we get to July.
Subcommittee.
Subcommittee 2-0, voted 2-0 in favor?
Comments, questions? Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is a single court, right, just one court?
Correct.
Okay,
Yes. And it will be high school regulation size.
so it's not that now, it's going to be expanded?
Correct. It's going to be a little bit bigger. We are there's a lot of pavement over there beyond the basketball court going towards the sand volleyball court. There is some foursquare and some extra pavement. We are actually shrinking that down. So there will be less pavement there than what's there now, but it will be a full basketball court. And the fencing along the woods will go from, it's 4 feet now or 5 feet, it's going to go to 6. I'd like to put 8 as long as it fits in there, just so it's higher and balls aren't going off the court into the woods. And we'll create a little opening so that if it does go over, they're not climbing it, they can walk through.
Frank, okay. Other questions? Chris?
Is there any consideration at all put lights on this one, like the one downtown has?
Not at this time. It's a pretty tight neighborhood there, right outside, so it was some of my consideration, but down the road, we may look at lights somewhere, whether Wildwood, because that has 2 courts. I think we could get more bang for our buck there with lights.
Anybody else? Motion?
Move. Second?
So, motion to approve 4-15 Rohannes basketball court renovation for $115,000 from free cash. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstain? Chair votes yes, 13-0-0. Thought you were going to ask another question, Roger, and you threw me off. All right, 4-16 Simonds Park Accessible Walkway Phase 2.
Yes, this would be a joint project with the Simonds Trust. We started a few years ago. We began a 3-phase plan to improve accessibility at Simonds Park. The first phase created an accessible walkway from the handicap parking spots at the main gate in the upper parking lot to the playground and then down to the wading pool. And we did that project with funding with the Simonds Trust, and DAC also contributed as well. So this, our second phase is to get access from the existing pickleball court, so next to the skate park, down to the lower street hockey and tennis courts. It's the easier of the 3 phases. The third phase will get from the front of the Visco building by the wading pool down to that level. And I'll talk about that in just a minute. So this funding that we're requesting is just a portion of the project. The Simonds Trust last year approved $25,000 to go towards this. So if we're successful with this, we'll add the 25, go out to bid, and create an accessible walkway from the skate park. They'll remove the pathway that's shown in the picture all the way down to the next level and regrade it so that it's an accessible walkway. There's enough room to do it. They'll be removing part of the stone walls that are there so they get the width, and they'll be repouring walls in there as well. So the quote we received was for $95,000, and again, that quote was this past spring, and in our current economic and with tariffs, everything's going up, so we don't know what materials will cost at that point. So we're asking for $100,000 from the town, and we'll take $25,000 from the Simonds Trust.
Subcommittee.
2-0.
Questions? Motion.
I got a
Oh,
question.
you got a question. You're on the subcommittee.
I don't know if this came up before. You mentioned taking out stone walls and putting in poured concrete. Sounds kind of ugly. What are they going to do to make it look not so ugly?
Half of it, you're only going to see the top of it. Over there, if you go to the lower courts, to the street hockey and the tennis, and you turn, there's a foundation wall there, just a cement wall that holds back the earth. That'll be what this is on the inside, on the skate park side.
Okay, I guess I was thinking about this stone wall that's on the outside of the wall.
No, I may have said that. I believe that's staying. I apologize.
Good.
I believe that is staying. It's the inside one on the skate park side.
Okay, thanks.
Anything else? Motion?
Move to approve?
Second.
All those in favor of 4-16, the accessible walkway Phase 2, $100,000 from free cash? Opposed? Abstain? Chair votes yes. 13-0-0. Next up, are they the pickup truck? Or we go 417?
Yep,
Yep.
pickup truck.
4-17, R11 pickup truck replacement.
Yes, R11 is a 2015 Ford 350 pickup truck, has 92,000 miles on it. The bed of the truck is rotting, and we've spent, in its lifetime, $28,000 in repairs. It did include a transmission. It's had brakes done a couple times, but we were told that when the sticker expires on it in December, that it will not go back on the road because of the rotting. And so we are asking for $105,000. We'll be replacing that with a 2024 Ford F-350. It would probably be a 25 at this point. I think when this was quoted, it was 24 still. But if they have a 24 and that's cheaper, we'll be going with that. Comes with a plow package, and it will be a utility body, as seen in this picture, be used by one of our foremen, be able to keep tools and things locked in there, and parts for, I believe the person that will be getting this will be doing irrigation and things like that, so be able to stock it with irrigation parts and not have to keep running back and forth to the shop. So it is a utility body.
Subcommittee voted 2-0.
Questions? I'm assuming it doesn't have the Bose 10-speaker surround sound and the bucket seats.
Are you looking for a motion to add it?
No. I'd love a motion to buy a utility pickup truck.
So
Second.
without the
Without the
It does have air conditioning, I think.
Okay.
All right.
we'll allow that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Chair votes yes, 13-0-0. 4-18, R14 Toro mower replacement.
All right. The current Toro is a 16, which is R14, is a 16-foot wide area mower. It is 10 years old, has over 5,000 hours on it. The mower is used daily from April through October, and actually last year we were even cutting into December. Early December, we had to cut a couple fields. It's driven over the road, so the operators are operating a lawnmower, which is licensed and registered for the road, over road, and all of us travel in Burlington every day. We know how traffic flows, and so they do operate this and try to keep up with the flow of traffic and operate it as safely as possible. So we're looking to replace this unit with two 12-foot zero-turn mowers that will be towed on a trailer to their job sites. We had the unfortunate circumstance of having both of our wide area mowers go down last year within weeks of each other. We were able to demo one of these 12-foot zero turns. So it's a zero turn just like, you know, the 72-inch deck that you might see a landscaper operate on a larger platform. It has 3 4-foot decks, one in the front, 2 on the sides. Our operator that tested it fell in love with the versatility. They cut Wildwood Park in probably 40 minutes. They could, you know, zero turn. You could stop and pivot your direction on a dime. We made the conscious decision that it's time that we start towing these to extend the life. The other great part about this is that the decks can be changed the height with pins, 4 large pins on each deck. Right now, it's casters and washers, making sure you have the right diameter on each side, on each deck. can be an hour to get a deck leveled. This is 4 pins in each deck that you pull out, raises and lowers the deck, and goes right off. So it will prevent us from having to cut a field at one height and then go and change the deck size at the end of the day and come back and cut it again if it's very tall. So we just finished 3 days of rain, right? And everybody wants everything cut right away. So do we. But this would allow us to go cut a field that has gotten high and then, go off to the side, lower the decks and cut it again so that we're not creating these large piles of grass. A question did come up in our subcommittee about the diesel engine versus gas. I did check with the vendor. They're not concerned about the diesel going away, any laws coming in outlawing or limiting diesel. They've been talking about that for years, and there's no gas option for this. Said it's similar to the Bobcats. The Bobcats are diesel engines, and it's very similar to that. But the diesel platform is not going away. We also talked about, I talked about battery with the vendor. On this size unit, they're not at the battery level yet that is efficient. So we've also looked into automated as well. The largest we found was it 60 inches?
Yeah.
50-something inches. They're being used at some universities and on their quads and stuff, and they, you have to put a charging station out there and everything, and they don't differentiate between clothing and grass. So lots of sweatshirts get, that get left behind, get shredded for the people. We've looked at different options. Going forward, I think when it's time to replace our other 16-foot, that we'd probably go to a 12-foot again, or some smaller version, maybe a 14-foot, and then keep 3 in rotation and being able to tow them around town for safety of the operators.
Subcommittee.
2-0 in favor.
Questions? Chris?
So it says that they have a trailer, that needs to be trailered. I'm assuming we have those?
I'm sorry, this should have said we will be adding a trailer. So the quote is $133,892, and the other 16 and change will be used to purchase a trailer.
Other questions?
Oh, guess what? If you have twice as many mowers, do you need twice the staffing?
I assume, but
No, we feel we can do this with the current staffing levels, yes. And it's something that, in a good example, we could park the trailer, behind Town Hall or up at the Human Service Building. One can get off and cut there, and one can make the short hop over on property or quick ride on the road over to the common, do the common, and then they can, meet back and go off to their next. One can do Upper Simonds, one can do Lower Simonds. One can do Upper Rahanis, one can do Lower Rahanis. So it just gives us more flexibility, which I think we really need.
Anything else? Motion.
Move to approve?
Second.
Motion to approve 4-18 R14, the Toro mower at $150,000 from free cash. All in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Chair votes yes. 13-0-0. And 4-19, Town Common Bandstand and Walkway renovation.
Okay, so we have been looking at the Town Common Walkways and Roger, what do we decide to call it? Bandstand? Gazebo?
Gazebo. Stick with
Gazebo. We're going to stick with gazebo. If I say bandstand, I mean gazebo. The gazebo on the Town Common. Currently, we have asphalt walkways all the way around the common, except for the 2 that were done about 6 or 7 years ago that come from Town Hall and next door at, is it 35 Center Street? The old bank, Youth and Family Service Building. Those were done in concrete. They've held up very well to truck traffic, mowing, pedestrian traffic. So we are looking to replace 13,350 square feet of existing asphalt sidewalks with new concrete sidewalks. We'd be matching the size and shape and elevation of the walkways, making sure that they are handicap accessible throughout, and then adding an accessible walkway from to the gazebo stairs. And also, this would all be done in concrete. They would be minimum of 6 feet wide. Most of them are closer to 7. They will stay the same size, though, but will all be at least 6 feet. Then the work that would exist or happen on the gazebo would be to remove all of the existing posts, not at the same time, and reinstall 4x6 supports. Removing the 4x6 supports and installing pressure-treated 4x4 posts to the rafters, new railings all the way around, new stairs, using AZEC trim around. Right now at the top, there's some fancy lattice and stuff. We'll put in new corbels. The supports will be set into a steel bracket at the bottom. Everything will be covered in the PVC. The railings will be heavy PVC, commercial grade, not, no knock at Home Depot and Lowe's, but not the stuff you buy at the home center, the commercial grade. And then right now, the openings in the gazebo are 9 feet. A standard commercial railing is 8 feet. So what they'll do is put a 4x4 pressure-treated post in the middle and cover it with a 5.5-inch square composite post to make up that difference. And then, so they'll be able to use the 8-foot railing sections. The roof itself was done over in the early 2000s. The inside of the roof is in good shape. We did have a engineer design this. And I'm just going to jump back to the beginning. Over the years, we've applied for a shared streets grant, an ADA grant, and we included in a park grant application for Simonds Park to include the town common as well. So feel like we've exhausted all of our other avenues trying to get funding for this. The walkways themselves are, the asphalt ones are starting to dip and sink. No matter what, we're gonna have to do some kind of repair, but they're uneven more than they're even around the common. And we've had a number of residents, elder residents come up to us during our events and say, hey, I almost tripped over here. Can we, is there any plan to do the common over? Can we look at that? So this has been put off for a little while. We've tried other avenues for funding, but we're at a point where we really need to make the necessary improvements to make the common walkways accessible, but also, fix the gazebo instead of keep patching little things. So we have a nice, beautiful common, despite the dandelions, going forward for years to come.
Subcommittee.
2-0 in favor.
Questions? Frank?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have one. The total cost of this is $350, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the concrete walkways that are being proposed is $263.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a huge chunk of the cost. I'm not advocating for this, but I'd like to at least have an idea. If you replaced it, if you dug it up and replaced it with, an asphalt walk with a proper underlayment, stone and maybe a 2-coat asphalt, how much cheaper would it be? Or would it be cheaper?
I'm not sure. We did recently ask a contractor the difference between asphalt and concrete for another walkway, and did they tell us it was negligible right now? I could try to get a per
Okay, but do you
foot
want the
price.
concrete because you just think it's better, or you think the asphalt just doesn't do the trick anymore?
I think the concrete is better. I think with the asphalt, it's more susceptible to New England, freeze thaw, if it has little cracks in it. I think the concrete, I was actually skeptical of the concrete going in, especially knowing that, we're driving trucks over it as we do work around the common, lawnmowers, truck day, those events.
That
And it's held up.
and freezing and all of that.
Yeah.
It's concrete as well.
Yeah,
It's like a pretty
it does.
expensive, pretty carefully done job. So, if I were to just make a wild ass guess, maybe you could save, $50,000 or $75,000 with the bituminous, but you feel like the concrete walkway is just a superior walkway anyway.
Yes.
Okay.
And I don't know if this matters. I think it looks nicer, too.
Oh, it definitely looks better. It's classier, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
There's also an aspect of the lifetime of it as well, because the bituminous will last about a third of the lifetime is. Sorry.
There is no mention of useful life in warrant.
I can get from the contractor that gave me the proposal what an anticipated useful life. I do not know. So the ones that are out there, we think 6 or 7 years already, and they're not showing any signs of wear. I would only be making an assumption, though, to guess. So I can ask and get that answer.
How about the gazebo? You're gonna have to do this every 4 years or not?
I think we're looking at probably 20 years for the gazebo, especially if they're using PVC, the Aztec boards. You're going to wrap it and make it weather tight, the supports.
Okay.
Chris?
So, since we're looking at the gazebo and town common, I've always wondered why the two concrete, what are these, octagons? Why have we thought at all about wanting to do something different there? Because they are used spaces during performances and whatnot, but actually, doing something different than what's there, since we do have programming that is quite successful down there.
No, for those exact reasons, I think they're used, and I think people count on them, because sometimes being up in the gazebo is away from the people, right? So this allows them to be more interactive and gives them a solid footing to do that.
I guess I'm saying more.
Oh, more of them.
Because it's not always just that, or there's I just have always thought that those are very odd, having one or the other, and if we were, really gonna start doing this, we're not just piecemeal it, is this really the vision that we want for this? Totally with the gazebo, it's iconic within our town, and it seems to fit our needs, but that space there, one, is the, I guess my other question is this accessible walkway gonna at least get to one of those, is question one, and two, is it better for us to either reposition or cement all the way around so that we have that overflow?
So the walkway will get to the pad closest to the stairs.
Yep.
We do have down the road, we do need to get a person with a disability or mobility issue up onto the gazebo. So looking at that, a lift down the road, this does not include a lift. Lots of things would have to be worked out on, how is the lift operated? Who is there to operate? Do we just give a key out? Do we leave it open? Which I wouldn't recommend, but getting, yes, so some kind of cover on it to protect it from the weather, which is why we didn't include it here. We wanted to come with a more thoughtful plan at that point. But it would get a person to one of the pads. Adding more pads around there, what I know of that area in heavy rain, that becomes a pond. And then It drains fairly quickly. The Friday before Celebrate Burlington last year, our staff was down there setting things up. Storm came in, I went down, water had filled the bottom area and was bubbling out of the drain that's there, because it could only take so much. So I think adding more concrete might not be our best option. But we could also have a landscape architect look at this and look at a vision for beyond that.
Anybody else? Motion?
Move to approve? Or second?
It's been moved and seconded. 419, the Town Common Bandstand and Walkway renovation for $350,000 from free cash. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstain? Chair votes yes, 13-0-0. And, Will and Marshall Simonds is your last one, is that right?
Yes. So the Will of Marshall Simonds, it's the one I always leave out. It's 70, I apologize.
$73,762.09.
Thank you. In the backup that was handed out, lists the projects that were approved by the Simonds Trust for this year. Usually, we have projects into them, and it takes them a little while to get back to us, and we set up a meeting. It's usually after town meeting. But the list of projects includes $25,000 for landscape architect to help us design that Phase 3 of the accessible path from the front of the Visco building to the courts, pickleball court area, money for entertainment, scholarships, and programming, special events that take place up at Simonds Park, some money for some public art at the park, and as well as some kind of commemorative piece for both Dom Roberts and Bill Boudreau, who both have passed in the last 2 years, former recreation director and assistant director. And then a new flagpole out in front of the Visco building. And am I missing one more thing? I think I got everything there. We did approach them about contributing to the dugout roofs and stuff. Burlington Baseball Softball has said they would be involved with that. Those were the projects that were approved this year. And they've already approved them, so it's all in the backup.
Okay, and this is the
exact list.
first reading, right?
Yes, this is the first reading. The second reading is in September town meeting.
Subcommittee.
Voted 2-0 in favor. Actually, John, did we talk about this?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah,
Any questions?
Yep.
We were very thorough.
Remember? Anybody? Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion to approve the first reading of the will of Marshall Simonds for $73,762.09. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Chair votes yes, 13-0-0.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
We did, I did want to give Rec credit because we did talk about outstanding warrant articles also.
Yep, we did. They've got several that are, can be closed out, the work's done, including skid steer, another zero-turn mower, ball field groomer, and a leaf vacuum, I think. The three outstanding ones are the Wild Mill Park project, which I guess is done or nearly done, right?
Yes, we're just poured-in-place surface. The rubber poured-in-place surface is scheduled for next week. So,
Is that Overlook or is that a different?
Wildmere, down on the bottom behind, yes.
Yeah.
Flags.
And then the other one that's ongoing is the athletic field improvement, still has a bunch of money in that budget from last year's warrant article. And of course, the Overlook Park project is just beginning, and so there's still a lot of money to be spent there.
On the Overlook, so we approved the entire amount, but then you did get the grant.
Yes, would you like a little update?
Please.
All right.
Would you like to give us one?
Yes, that's what I just said to Kelly before. I think it's a good idea. I was going to look to give a full update at town meeting. I want to get through, and I'll explain. So, yes, we were successful. We got the $1 million Land and Water Conservation Fund. At this time, it is still being funded, which we're very excited about. We are in the process, we've gone to Conservation for one meeting already, and we're heading back tomorrow night for hopefully our second and final with Conservation, and it's just to deal with stormwater. And there was no stormwater retention on the property, and now we have 3 bioretention rain gardens.
Nature-based solutions.
Sorry, what is?
Nature-based.
Nature-based solutions on the property. The conceptual plan is pretty similar to what was shown at town meeting last year. It includes a field at the bottom of the park. So when you pull in, you'll have parking on the left-hand side up towards the theater building and up to the side of the theater building. There will be access for a fire truck to come in front of the theater building as well as behind if needed. On the right side of the theater building will be a playground that will be an accessible playground, not 100% accessible, but almost pretty close. And we'll have a port-in-place surface. We'll have a small seating area, picnic area there. And then in front of that, behind where the old garage was, will be an open field with a walking trail around it. We're hoping that, Mother Nature was pretty cold with us this year, that in the future, that it does have a small indent in that field, that we may be able to flood it and freeze it. There is a hydrant up there that we would be able, a water source that we'll be able to tap into. And then from the right side of the playground going up the hill will be an accessible trail up through the pine forest. And then the existing road that is there will be redone, regraded, and created a different path to the top. There will be 3 accessible parking spots at the top and 1 to 2 typical parking spots. We're not looking to encourage parking up there, but we do want to offer our residents who may need an accessible spot to be able to drive up and enjoy the views from the top. At the top of the hill, there will be an accessible walking loop as well, and anyone that's been up there during the day, when the leaves are down or the trees weren't so big, you can see Boston on a good day. So we feel that it's very important to make sure everybody can access it, but we're not encouraging parking up there at all. There will be wayfinding signage throughout the park. We're looking at about 30 trees being planted, native species trees. What's that?
For the most part.
For the most part, yes. No palm trees, though. We tried. No palm trees. The project is very good. Is very well on its way. Like I said, we're going to Conservation tomorrow night, and hopefully we get our stormwater permit. And we are scheduled to go before the planning board on June 5th. They are going to hear it on May 15th as a discussion, just to open a discussion on it. We'll present the project, and then they will have a public hearing on June 5th. Hopefully, if we're successful there and it's approved at the planning board, we'll be able to go out to bid in July and hopefully start construction sometime late August, early September. We're very excited for it. We're finalizing the budget. There will be lighting in the parking lot, plenty of trails to walk on, and it's just a really good passive recreation area. At the top of the hill, it will connect to the Little Brook Conservation Area, which is 27 acres, we say, 27 acres. So Overlook is about 7 acres, and then it'll connect to 27 of some maintained trails and some non-maintained trails. So,
And why does it go to planning?
for the parking, I think that's it. Parking, traffic, that kind of thing. So we have been working with the DCM group that meets on Tuesdays, every other Tuesday, 4 or 5 months. I think we might have first presented it to them last October, or even maybe before that, right? Before we went to, I think somewhere in there. So we started to get some feedback as we were working on the conceptual plan, so we could work that in. And then we've been to DCM 2 times already. So it is,
Is it a town thing?
yeah, it's planning, traffic, schools. It's to discuss projects that are coming up in town and get feedback. Board of Health, building, all those, so they can give feedback and, help developers along or answer their questions before they get to conservation and planning.
I'm going to guess it's department heads, commissions, and management, or something.
Yeah,
Right,
I've drawn a blank right now on the,
What's the moniker, John?
With the development coordination meeting.
there you go.
There you go.
Thank you.
Much better than my guess.
To coordinate the development going on.
Do they have minutes?
I don't know. We've been before that group a couple of times. Board of Health has weighed in on the stormwater, Conservation has weighed in on the stormwater, and what are we calling them again? What are they called?
Nature-based.
Nature-based solutions. And Fire has weighed in, that's how we got the access for the trucks, for a fire truck. They're comfortable, there's a turnaround at the top that, an ambulance could back into if it had to, police car. So public safety was consulted as well.
So you're not encouraging parking there? What you said?
Not up top.
At the top of the hill,
There'll be
yes.
plenty of parking down below.
Yes. We're not encouraging overnight parking for anybody. We're not, accessible parking at the top during park hours.
Thought about putting a sign up there that says 30-minute limit?
We want people to enjoy the park, but we've already talked about signage at the bottom that, parking at the top is for, accessible patrons, something along those lines.
Don't be lazy, something like that.
What's that?
Frank, just don't be lazy.
Oh, yeah.
Something clear.
An escalator will be
Frank?
funded in the next,
2 quick things. One, the walking paths, are they allowed to have bicycles on? Just don't know.
Yeah.
Conservation does not encourage that?
So it's walking only.
Well, actually, sorry, I'm thinking about the conservation area, but
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
That's true, that's true.
Yeah, we have, it hasn't come up in our discussions at all, but,
Okay.
so,
And when you go in, if you look at Overlook as it was, when you first go in, you got these old barns facing you, right in front of you, and you've got another set of barns to your left, and then the Players, the theater, kind of up the hill a ways. Of those 3 things, how much of it remains?
just the long block building on the left, which is recreation maintenance storage, recreation program storage, and then the theater building. The other 2 buildings have come down.
Oh, they're already.
They're already down.
Right. And so the long storage buildings, what kind of shape are they in?
Rectangle. We replaced the roof before I would say 2016, 17. So the roofs are good on them. We are looking to expand recreation program storage because they have a very small
Right.
chunk there. We have been able to move out, I'd say 60%, 70% of the maintenance items out of there.
Down
We
to
had
the garage?
what we kept, yes, went down to the garage. We still store small equipment, our fertilizer, and things like that up there, so it's not messing up a nice,
It looks decent.
yes,
It's incompatible with what a new park is gonna look like, and it's dry,
yes,
and you use it, okay.
Yep.
And the other sheds, the first ones, they're gone.
correct.
All right, and the theater, who maintains the theater?
We put a roof on that as well.
So you're responsible?
Yes,
for the
so,
maintenance of
yes,
that?
they have a 3-year agreement that could be re-upped for a 4th year, and then they have to do a new
Yeah, so
agreement, so
You don't collect any funds from that group, is that true?
$1 a year.
You don't collect any funds from that group? Okay.
Correct.
All right, thank you. It sounds great.
Yes.
I mean, this is really exciting.
Yes.
It's gonna be beautiful.
It is, we're very excited about it.
Just one other follow-up. There are 2 storage containers up there. Are they going?
Yes, one is the theaters and one is historical.
Oh, they're not yours.
No,
Not exactly.
no.
Historic's going when they build their barn, their shed.
It's going before this project's over. I'm
All
not sure.
right.
I'm not sure at what time.
He's so away.
All right,
Anybody in a driveway they want to offer
Yeah.
up?
all right, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you guys for approving the money at town meeting last year.
All right, next up.
Are you, chapter 30, chapter 90, or?
Well, let's just start back up at number 3, warrant article 3, authorize the revolving
Sure.
accounts.
Can I just say move to approve? Maybe there's questions. Never mind.
You can say that,
No, I'm going to jump the gun.
then we can have discussion after.
I warmed them up for you, John.
Which one we start? Revolving accounts?
At the top, the revolving accounts, yeah.
Okay, so Article 3, this is an annual article each May. Back about 7 or 8 years ago, they changed the law for departmental revolving accounts, and you had to make them part of a bylaw, which made it easier because you used to have to approve each revolving account each year. Now, all you have to do is approve the spending limit, and that's what this article does. There is one change requested in this year, is to is to increase the spending limit in the local transportation revolving account. Has been $100,000 for quite some time. That program is becoming popular, and now at some point we'll be relying fully on a general fund subsidy that goes into the revolving account. And so we think 250,000 is probably where that program's going to normalize, hopefully. It's very popular. So we're asking to increase from 100,000 to 250,000. Now, it's important to note that this doesn't actually appropriate any money or cost any money. This just allows for those revolving accounts to take in those funds and expend up to that limit.
Subcommittee voted 2-0.
Question? John?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I apologize for not bringing this up in the subcommittee meeting, but I just realized it. So it's good that we're raising the limit. The thing I noticed is we've already spent $156K this year, and the limit was $100K in theory.
So
happened?
Yeah, so what technically doesn't count, so this is to try to, so we don't have to go down to technicalities, but the TNC money technically doesn't count in the spending, so the money that we transfer into there from the ride share money that we get, we usually appropriate it at January town meeting. This is the 10 cents per ride.
So that's for to decide, even though it
Yeah, so it technically
shuffled
doesn't
through here.
count.
Got it, okay, makes sense. Thanks.
Anything else? Now you can.
I don't want to be a hog.
No, go ahead.
Move to approve.
Second.
We don't have Sonia anymore. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstain? Chair votes yes, 13-0-0. We move down the sheet to acceptance of Chapter 90. Article
So
5.
Article 5, Chapter 90, another annual article that technically isn't required to be appropriated, but it has been a longstanding tradition in this town to do this, so we continue to do it. We do say that we'll accept the money when given from the state and put it into our pot of money we use to pave roads and sidewalks. This year, our apportionment is about $1 million, which is, they changed the formula a little bit on, based on miles of road versus what it used to be. Our apportionment didn't change that much, but then there was also a big transportation bond bill approved by the governor. So if that actually does make its way all the way through, we'll see about an extra $321,000 from that. That happens, almost every year. There's a little bit, something extra that comes in, never to that level. So what we're requesting is to just approve the whole amount. So in case we do get it, again, it's not, if you don't approve it, we can still spend it, but
It makes you feel good.
So
maybe the new assistant town administrator will fix that when he stops.
he's going to come in and say, this is all screwed up. Okay. Questions? Frank?
I just want to double check something, Mr. Chairman, thank you. So we, every other year, we put on the bond schedule a certain amount of money for roads and sidewalks,
Yep.
right?
3.5 million.
3.5. And this money comes in every year.
Every year.
And it goes to exactly the same thing, correct?
Correct, yeah, we have the whole paving schedule, and then when they get the bond money, they couple it with this money and figure out what they're going to be doing for the next few years.
So I think we have the general position that the amount that we bond every other year is enough to sort of keep up, but we're not even close to getting to all the projects we'd like to. But can you amplify on that? And where do we really stand on road work?
I can't do it justice, that would be Tom Hayes, who's the expert on that, but I know when he talks about, they don't have a wish list, they have a needed list, and they don't keep up with it.
The thrust of this is, I'm wondering, with this kind of money coming in from the state, do we really need to bond every other year that much money?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah, our needs are beyond what all of that money is.
That's what I thought, but I'd ask. Thank you. Looking for money,
So,
especially,
He checked under the couch.
yeah, especially stuff that's on the debt schedule.
yeah.
Any,
I don't think
anything
we
else?
actually borrowed one of those in a while, though. We've recashed those 3.5s.
Oh, that's a good point, yes, but this time we are, right?
It's not one this year, it'll be next year. This year's water mains.
Yeah, okay, thank you. All right,
Right.
you're right.
Move to approve?
Second.
All those in favor of accepting $1,399,206.67,
Or whatever.
or anything less than that? Opposed? Abstained? Chair votes yes, 1300. All right.
Next one is approving the Cable Access Enterprise Fund. Again, around that same time, about 7 or 8 years ago, they changed the law and they required that cities and towns that have a local cable access that is funded through the PEG, which stands for Public Education and Government fee that's on subscribers' bills that gets paid to the town. If you're going to pass it through to a local cable access and they're not a department of the town, then you had to set up a revolving account to do that. That's really the only transactions that happen in this revolving account. It's the easiest one to reconcile. We get the money in from the cable providers. We send it to BCAT. They use it to operate. This year, we have traditionally just approved the not-to-exceed number, which just allows us the ability to, the mechanism to take that money in and forward it over to BCAT. The number has been, as subscribership has gone down, so too has those collection of fees, and so too has the money that's been forwarded to BCAT. So we used to approve somewhere closer to 600,000. Now we're talking about 550. We won't get to that number this year, and likely won't next year too. But just in case people reconnect the cord, we will have the ability to forward it to them. So I spoke to Jen Dodge. She was comfortable with this. So that's this year's proposal.
Subcommittee. Yeah. John?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is all the money just passed through in the same year, or do we ever carry a balance there?
No, it's all passed through. As we get it, we forward it. There is, when we sign contracts with the cable providers, if there was a time where included in the contract was a public access or a technology grant or something like that, we could have a balance because maybe there was a certain amount of money included in the contract for the town to use for things like lighting up this room and things like that. That could cause to have a balance, but
Generally not.
yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Mike?
Is that the sole funding source for BCAT?
I don't know.
So I'm the treasurer of BCAT, as it turns out, so I don't know if it's not really a conflict of interest, but, so yes, the bulk of, almost all the funding there, there's a few things where BCAT will be paid to do some production, and there are some gifts, but it doesn't amount to, much in the way of money.
So they would kind of set their budget or their spending for the year based on how much money came in through this revolving fund?
Not entirely. It's pretty stable year to year. BCAT has accumulated some funds back when subscribership was higher, so there is some reserves within the BCAT finances. They periodically look at the declining, threats of declining subscribers and revenue and go, what are we going to do? And so far, the sky has not fallen. But it's still coming closer.
I would think. Anything else? Any other questions? Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion to authorize the Cable Access Enterprise Fund, Article 16, for $550,000. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Chair votes yes, 13-0-0. ANP compensation plan.
So the next 6 all have to do with the 5 unions and the 1 collectively bargained compensation plan. All of our union contracts expire on June 30th this year, so we're going into, so everything for wage adjustments was budgeted and negotiated settlements in our operating budget. So the transfers that I'm going to talk about for the next 3 articles are already in the budget. It doesn't change the budget at all. All it does is approve the compensation plan or the union contract and allow us to transfer the money from negotiated settlements into each of the departments. The first one is the AMP. This is our folks that, department heads, professional, middle management, these are people that aren't in a union, but do negotiate their compensation plan collectively. This was a restructure of this plan last year where we did a comp and class study and set up a new salary structure and people moved to specific grades. So this is just a straight, simple 3.5% increase on that existing salary schedule. So no other changes. They don't have a contract anyway, but there's no other changes, and that's what that is. You'll find a theme when we talk about the other 2 union contracts, with that 3.5 number being the same for all. But talking just about AMP, it's 53-ish folks in that group, and it's $208,714. Again, a transfer from from negotiated settlements into the operating budgets, no effect on the budget.
Subcommittee voted 2-0.
Thank you.
They should.
And any questions, comments? Motion?
So moved. Second.
Now we're holding out. All in favor? Opposed? Abstained? 13-0-0.
Next group, Article 18, is what's called the BMEA. This is sort of the catch-all union. This is for everybody that's in a union that works more than 20 hours, that doesn't work for DPW and is in a public safety. So there's no police officers, no fire, no DPW, and it's everybody else. So it's from engineers, building inspectors, clerical staff, custodians, that's sort of all fall into this. It's our biggest unit. There's 110 people in it. This is for a 3-year deal. Their contract, as I said, was going to expire this June 30th. This will cover next year and the following 2 years. It's the same 3.5% on their salary schedule for each year of those contracts. No other economic changes in the contract. Some small housekeeping type of language changes, but they don't affect the dollars, or there's no economic value to them. So it was sort of a easier negotiating year with the groups. Typically what happens in a town, for better or worse, when one of the bigger unions settles a contract, that sort of sets the number for the smaller unions, and our school committee did a fantastic job and got a great deal with the teachers last year without having any public displays or a strike or anything like that. But what that does is it sort of set us up for what we were going to have. So this contract at 3.5 is a little more than, for all 3 years, is a little more than we've typically approved. But I still think it's a good deal. Was we stayed ahead or behind, whatever you want to call it, inflation with the last contract, and this is sort of a correction.
Subcommittee voted 2-0.
Mike?
Can you give us a sense of what the other contracts were? Were they 3% per year over 3 years? Like what?
The school contracts? The biggest one was the teachers, and they were 3.5 a year for 3 years.
And you said that was a little higher than we've
Oh, yeah, yeah.
passed, but in the past, it's averaged more like.
Yeah, we've been 2.5 with maybe some changes within the steps, between percentages in the steps, so that the cost would stay below 3. So it's a half point, probably more per than usual. Ours comes with no other changes, so that's good. But
And that's kind of in recognition that inflation has just been higher recently?
I would say that's one of the factors, yeah. I mean, that played into it for sure.
Not going to say anything.
No, go ahead.
But
You better not.
what it reflects is that the MTA, the teachers' union representations have been going hog wild with strikes and, feeling that for the services they're providing, they were underpaid. Once that gets set, these unions tend to, feel like we should fall in that line. And given that it came in at 3.5, it seemed reasonable. I think is where we ended up.
Yeah, we still do the due diligence, just like last year with the A&P, we did a full compensation comparison to our comp districts. We do that each time we negotiate with the BMEA and DPW and our public safeties, just to make sure we don't want to be the highest in our comparative group, but we also don't want to be the lowest and not be able to get anybody, so. I think we're right where we should be.
Yeah, and we agreed in the subcommittee that, the teachers' unions have been very aggressive, so there's been a lot of strife around the state and other parts of the country. So I think probably to come in at 3.5 on a 3-year contract is a fair and manageable sell. So that's how I felt, that we voted 2-0 for all of them.
Other comments?
Move to approve?
Second.
Motion to approve $250,278 from negotiated settlements to fund the BMEA collective bargaining agreement. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Chair votes yes, 13-0-0.
So for Article 19, I could just say ditto, because it is the same. But this is our DPW workers, along with one fire department employee. The mechanic is also captured in the DPW union with the other mechanics, so it makes sense. And they have about 45 folks in this group. Same thing. The only economic part is the 3.5% on all steps of their and grades of their salary schedule each year for 3 years. And again, a very minor housekeeping change that allows us to post jobs internally and externally at the same time. You wouldn't think that was a great win, but it saves us several weeks of having to post a job that no one in town, no one in our current group is going to apply for. Being able to do that ahead of time gets us out there a little earlier. Again, no economic value to that, but it was one thing. I think it was the only other thing, other than summer hours, so a couple of small housekeeping changes, but other than that, just the 3.5.
So, subcommittee.
Actually, DPW voted on that.
sorry.
2-0. Just when you thought.
Any questions or comments on that? In the past, when I was on DPW rec, there were concerns about being able to hire people. How are we doing with that? Both with the various licenses and certifications?
Yeah, so we did make some changes over the past 2 contracts with the lower range to make us more competitive at those levels. And then we also do where we will reimburse someone to get their CDL. Over time, it's a much different process than it was even when I started here, that now it's a $4,500 class and all these hours, when it used to be just a test. So now you have to do the class and the hours and then the test. So we have a plan in place to reimburse up to, I think, half of it over time, over 5 years. So if you leave after 3, you only got reimbursed a portion of it. So that has helped. But also what helps us, I think we've said it a few times here, when the economy is great, it's hard for us to get folks. And when it isn't, it's easier. So I'm guessing the economy is slipping a little because the last few postings, we've had a good batch of folks applying. So might not be great for the rest of the economy. It was good for us.
Not good news, but good. Okay. Anybody else? Motion?
So moved.
Second?
Motion to approve funding the DPW collective bargaining agreement from negotiated settlements for $143,833. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstained? Chair votes yes, 13-0-0. Next 3 are
The next 3 are likely to be withdrawn.
not withdrawn yet.
For all intents and purposes, they are, but
I didn't sign them, so we didn't move and second them. I can if you want me to.
So implying they'd be back in September with...
yeah, hopefully, we'll continue to work hard to try to get it back for September. We don't want people going too far ahead. It's not great for labor harmony.
And these would all you anticipate funded with negotiated settlements, which is in the budget already, so...
Correct.
Carrying them out doesn't hurt us, might hurt them.
Oh, they'll be retro, so I mean,
Yeah.
it's just a timing issue.
So they're all withdrawn, 20, 21, and 22?
20 and 21 are definitely withdrawn. 22 is likely to be withdrawn. I mean, like Doug said, this was your last meeting before town meeting, and we didn't vote on it, so
Right,
it's pretty much withdrawn.
exactly.
Okay.
Excellent.
Thank you.
The parade.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yep. The 4th of July parade has
Just want to
been,
make sure it's clearly withdrawn or not.
it's been withdrawn. Yes. Article number 24, 4th of July parade has been withdrawn. I believe Nick Priest will have a short presentation to town meeting to explain.
Thank
The
you.
issue.
See you all Monday.
Thank you.
Hip, hip.
Thanks, Chuck.
Congratulations again on your
Thank you.
ascendancy. All right. So we finished the budget. Thank you, everybody. Fantastic.
Congratulations.
Yeah, self-congratulations. Do we have anything on the police station of value?
There's actually, the next meeting is tomorrow, so I don't have any major updates since the last time. I mean, things are on schedule. We talked about, in the last meeting, we talked about the temporary location. That's moving along, making progress. Believe it's staying within the budget so far. The police station itself, there was, I think, a little bit of concern in the last meeting with the ability for the architects and so forth to get the necessary permissions from the planning board. The planning board thought, you've kind of slipped behind on the schedule, and we're concerned that you'll be able to have enough meetings with us to stay on schedule to start your construction. I think it was end of the summer-ish, September maybe. So that was one concern. I'm not sure where that is now. But some things had caused them to have to delay their application to go in front of the planning board. We're still kind of working through the design, the kind of the look and feel of the place from the outside, so that's still a little bit in flux. No decisions made yet on that. I think that's about it.
Excellent. So from the high school building committee, the finance working group has kind of been revitalized now that they're a little further into the design process. We as a committee need to meet once town meeting's over to discuss kind of the debt exclusion timing and the vote of, the town meeting vote and timing of those things and what needs to happen and with timing for us to get the debt schedule where we would like to see it. I think that the OPM got nervous because he saw a debt exclusion discussion for a select board meeting, but it turned out that's a special select board meeting where Nick Priest is just going to kind of answer some questions, and it's kind of a town hall style thing more than them discussing any specific project, or so we can back off a little. But I will be maybe was it June 4th that I'm probably going to post a June 4th Ways and Means meeting to talk about the high school project, and it's also probably a good time to continue talking about capital planning and just pushing that along a little further. So normally we don't have a meeting again that soon after town meeting, but I think that this one's important. Anything on Fox Hill?
No, I think they're looking to have a meeting on internal design stuff, but it's nothing significant going on.
And the fields, I know there was a meeting.
There was a meeting at 6, unfortunately, I couldn't attend.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what they,
Doug, did they revise any of the numbers for AR8 from the last meeting we had?
There's a meeting tomorrow night, I think. Yeah. I don't expect expect there'd be number revisions.
There was a request just for them to sharpen the pencil, I remember.
They did come back and kind of explain where all of that came from. It did actually make sense. There was, yeah.
Okay.
John.
Yeah, just to, I was the pencil sharpener. We did meet, Doug and I did meet with both the OPM and the architect to just go over pricing a little bit more and understand, what seemed incongruous at the presentation. The Reader's Digest version is that the AR8 option, went up in price while NC5 went down, which seemed peculiar, and the primary reason for that was the split on the type of work that was being done. So there's a dollars per square foot for totally new construction. There's dollars per square foot for renovation of normal type things. And then there's dollars per square foot for renovation of really complicated things like the auditorium, which had a pretty big number, to the point where making a new one may be cheaper. So when you work through all that, and we did work through a lot of that with them, the net of it was that the numbers did have a lot of backup behind them that did explain how they got to where they got to, and it made more sense than it did in the presentation. And I think they acknowledged that it wasn't maybe a great presentation for explaining the numbers, but upon a deeper dive, it did make sense where they are. I think, you can always argue, whether things have been beaten down enough or not. But I think the good news is now it is narrowed down to just that AR8 option, that, everyone's laser focused on the same thing now, and it's no longer, there's no longer an issue of, I want to make this one look better, I want to make that one look better. Everyone's now aimed in the same direction and can be, working on how do we get it to be the best price.
So their estimated total cost kind of stayed the same as it was in that presentation?
Yeah, it hasn't changed.
Hasn't changed from that.
From that community presentation.
And I would say he gave a better presentation at the next high school building committee. So there's one tomorrow night, but the one last month, he did a much better job of breaking it down and kind of showing where the.
Yeah, it covered a lot of what we talked
Yeah.
about individually
Yeah.
at that meeting also. So there's a recording of that if you wanted to go back and, get into the detail with it.
Okay.
But they do have literally, hundreds of pages of backup of how they got to the price. So there's at least, there's certainly a process that was followed that, adds up to that number.
Okay. Great, thanks.
And athletic fields, I would just say, they may be coming back with a plan for just a single field instead of a double because of the size of the space they have and wetlands and encroachment. And so it may not end up being the same project. I don't know.
Yeah, they had a meeting at 6 o'clock tonight. I tuned into part of it on WebEx.
Oh, okay.
And they had a design for a single field with an overlapping softball field, and several people weren't at all happy about it, and they weren't happy with Conservation's answer about delineated things. So there's still a lot of discussion going on there. I think Eric, when he mentioned it, that it was,
Right.
there was more going on, and there wasn't a settled plan yet.
Right. Yeah. I think there's a difference of opinion between drainage problems and wetlands.
One man's drainage is another man's pond.
Right.
So, Mr. Chairman, could we just clarify, relative to the high school in AR8, so we're looking to have a Ways and Means meeting with more information coming into it with the OPM sometime after town meeting.
Yes.
And have you targeted a date for?
June 4th.
June 4th. Okay, and prior to that, you would ask in the email that Town Hall 1 and Friends try to get together prior to flesh out a little bit more the direction and the timing that we think they should go in relative to financing and that sort of thing.
If possible.
Yeah, so if we targeted a date for.
Yeah, so I just saw the email before I came over here. So just asking a few more questions, if you don't mind.
Yeah, yeah.
Who else would attend that subcommittee meeting? Like, what information can we expect outside of the full Ways and Means, which the OEM?
Well, I think the OPM would be happy to be there, and the architect, if that would be helpful. And then, town administration, John Denizio, I think it's kind of what questions do we think we need to flesh out before we come before the whole committee. Certainly members of the committee that have shown an interest and participated.
I mean, it's not really, Town Hall 1 is kind of a proxy to get a subgroup together before we come to the full meeting to.
It's a little bit of a working group, but
Yeah, it's a working group to try to hammer out.
it reflects
what
those
we're
that
dealing with.
focus a lot on the bond schedule and timing.
Bond
And
schedule, we'll have a better idea of the amount of money.
Yeah, I think there's also an intent to, think about the whole debt exclusion process. And,
Yes.
Right.
right, or, what's the
sequence
perceived best order of doing
Right.
things versus, the town meeting vote? Would it be a special town meeting? Is it somehow jammed into some other
So
town
to
meeting?
some extent, it would be, who would you like at the meeting? I assume that it would be the high school building committee, which is you and Roger, right?
No, it's Chris and I.
Chris and you.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, Chris, that's
Yeah.
right. You're on Fox Hill, right?
Roger's on
Yes.
Fox Hill.
I keep
Yeah.
mixing them up. So you and Chris,
Yeah, we can't get to a quorum, but otherwise,
no,
chair and vice chair.
chair, vice chair, John.
John's been to a lot of things, right?
But we're trying to not you know.
I don't want to recreate the meaning,
Without wasting meaning.
but I would like to be able to come to that.
Some homework. for-
Yeah, I'd like to come to the June 4th meeting with some information, so we're not starting from ground zero.
Some recommendations. So does that give you a pretty good idea?
I think it would be good for us, you know, and we don't have to do it here, we can, you know, just get an agenda and email, but I think it would be good to have here's the set of questions we're actually trying to answer going into that meeting, because
This is what
it is
we'd
going
like
to
to
need,
process.
it is going to need outside input to help answer some of that, so.
But I think we definitely would like John Denizio there and these players that we just mentioned. But we're not trying to, you know, make a private club here, it's just that we've got to make some progress on, you know, do you have a debt exclusion before the warrant or after the warrant?
Yeah.
How big an exclusion, how big is the warrant going to be? How does that reflect on the exclusion? You know, that sort of thing. I think that's what we're trying to get at. I mean, it's a pretty high stakes ball game, right? This will be the single biggest warrant article I think the town's ever floated.
Right.
And we've never done a successful debt exclusion. But, yeah, well, if you're gonna go for it, go for broke. And we've never done a successful debt exclusion, so we gotta figure that out. And on top of all of that, it's the selectmen that actually put up the debt exclusion. So we'll be coming into this for a full meeting, then going to the selectmen, probably John would bring it to the selectmen.
Right, I'd like to be able to just have some input to the select board, because they're the ones that are going to make those decisions.
Yeah, I think we want, much like we did with, you know, Fox Hill Police Station, I think you know, should make a presentation to the select board with our recommendations. So that's
Sure.
something that the
Yeah.
committee should vote on at some point,
Yeah, and I think John would want that, so.
which is that June 4th meeting, I presume.
If we can come to that and then come to an agreement and vote on a resolution that we agree on, that'd be great. If not, we'll just go to the select board with kind of our feelings and discussion.
That seems risky.
Right, right.
And what I would add is I think that the subcommittee is basically first step, so not everyone has to go, but forward your comments. I think we're
Sure.
going to be doing fact finding, so if you have some ideas, facts that need to be found, let us know and we'll do the first pass.
Right. Anything else? Motion?
Minutes.
I did get some minutes. Everybody feel like they reviewed them if they want to? I got a couple of corrections
Oh, then I
and
forgot.
made them. Well, I have another trusty minute person that is very accurate, so. I'd love to hear a motion to approve the minutes from April 16th.
For the modifications, cosmetic.
Yeah, a missing number that she couldn't get off the recordings and things like that.
Sounds good.
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor? Thank you. Opposed? Abstain? Chair votes yes. 1300. Thank you. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes, we do.